Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. Today we are doing the brushless Makita drill. Off the hop here, we did some testing on the baterías and they turned out that the capacity of these Makitas were lower than both the DeWalt and the red lithium Milwaukee. However, I defer to a higher power mooch who does vape nash, y'all, douche fluting. Tested these batteries. These are the Samsung Blue 25Rs, Blue Wrap 25Rs. Samsung apparently is good because they underrate their batteries, their battery capacity, and they're very long-lived, very robust design. Maybe don't give you, they're more like the plodding, rather than a racehorse, they're the plodding plow horse. So if you want just for it to last a longer time drilling, there's more capacity actually in these. But lifetime, if you want the thing to last for years and years, these are the longest lived cells of any of the commonly available tool batteries. Now we can see here, or maybe you can't, thank you, very good build quality on the batteries, attention to detail, silver plated contacts. There's epoxy, celastic material encapsulating all of the stuff that would be susceptible to moisture ingress. Nicely covered up here with some dielectric material. The case itself is polycarbonate, a very expensive plastic and robust as well. The top here doesn't say what it is. Oh yeah, it's polycarbonate as well. And glass fiber, very stiff glass fiber reinforced nylon button. Real good battery packs. Really good battery packs. Built for long term, not for all show and no go, but for long term use. But there is a problem with these batteries if you're the tinkering type. You cannot recover them. If you have a bad cell, or it drops below a certain voltage, they're dead. You can't fool the thing. There's a little confuser in here what monitors the voltage if it drops below. I think it's 3 times. It might even be just the one time. Even if you recover it and the battery's fine, say you just fucked up, or what could actually happen is you use it in the heat and then you try and charge it up when it's really, really cold. The battery voltage will be below a certain threshold and this will get flagged as a bad battery, even though if you just let it come up to temperature, it could charge again. There's some very kind of wanky monitoring on here, and I think they're gun shy about burning people's houses down. Long, short, and curly story of it is, if you're the tinkering type, these are not the batteries for you, because once the confuser says they're dickered, you might as well toss them right in the garbage. No recovery. Just keep a lookout here. Normally we're going to cheat just a little bit. Normally we don't turn it on before we take it apart. But in this case, I've been using it for months now. So we're going to check the total indicated run out on this chuck. We appear to be 0.1 millimeters of run out. That's 3.4 thou. So that's a human hair. That's a human hair of run out. And that's very, for a drill truck, that's pretty damn good. In comparison, that's about 0.2 millimeter run out on the default here. That's about 10 thou. So quite a bit more run out, and I'll show you the difference. Now, why the big change? That's 100% in the difference. The 2 main reasons. One is how accurately this chuck gets affixed to the shaft of the output, but also the chuck itself. This one is second to none for a name brand. Ukiwa. So Jacobs got sold to Anyway, they offshored everything. Jacob's Chuck, everything is made in China. Not that, you know, every country makes junk, but it seems like that particular country sends out a lot of junk. Now this one, Yukawa Seiko, I believe, they make machine tool parts. These guys, I would say, in my opinion, are better even than Rohm out of Germany. But for a cordless chuck, I mean, you can't. They haven't had nice chucks on cordless tools like this. I haven't seen one since the Milwaukee, the old Milwaukee that I bought, that was still owned by Atlas Crapco before TTI Industries out of Hong Kong bought them. But these are Japanese chucks, and they are absolutely pornographic in their quality. This might be one of the last models that comes with the built-in theft deterrent. That horrific teal color. They seem to be going to a kind of matte, murdered out black. It's quite a bit nicer in my opinion. And these are JIS heads, so Japanese standard. They're different than Phillips. They don't quite fit. You know how you get, it looks like a Phillips number 1 and you put the Phillips number 1 in there and it cams out. So you grab the Phillips number 2 and it sort of works. It's because it's a different head style. It's actually a JIS. Probably more like a European posi drive. So the two-part overmolding process, they mold the bottom plastic here, and then the TPE thermoplastic elastomer in the secondary process in the same mold. This would be, yeah, TPE, a thermoset elastomer. So, no, a thermoplastic elastomer. So this will melt and reconstitute. It will melt, it won't just burn, but it's good down probably to 50 degrees Celsius without crystallizing and cracking, so that's good. But if you're a greasy old mechanic, chances are you got grease on your hands and stuff, it'll eat this over molding after a while. It'll get all hemorrhoidy, you know, it gets all bubbled up and disgusting. So you might want to keep that in mind if you're a car painter rather. No problem. Okay, here's the back bearing off, back bearing housing. Popped right off. Glass fiber reinforced nylon. That's the good stuff. 30% by volume. No. 30% by weight. That's about 4%, something like that, by volume. And this is interesting. We have a sealed bearing here. This would be a special sealed bearing because they would want the preload, very light preload on that sealing face so that it doesn't heat up and wear prematurely. And we can feel that there's very little resistance to spinning due to that seal on there. Here's the clamshell, highly detailed mold, through holes for anchoring the overmolding. Got a little bit of damage here, some erosion or something, but look at how that would have to flow up and in there. We can see the difference in the grain structure. It's all pulled out sort of along here, and we can see we got a few little marks here, getting some wear on the mold or some leftover schmoo in there. It's interesting when you look at these very, very detailed molds, you can see where the molten plastic had to speed up and where it had to slow down and how it crystallized. Some really, really cool stuff going on there. That's high science, especially with the cooling and how it differentially cools and it warps a certain way and shrinks a certain way. Real art form to that. Interesting feature here. UHMW almost looks like a roller, but it's an anti-friction element to get that battery to go in the right spot. Nickel plated battery contacts, beautiful wire back here, 125C rated, very robust, and individually tinned conductors and then staked on. That ain't going nowheres and not gonna corrode into nothing. The creeping green death won't get it. Here we have the module for driving the brushless DC, the brushless DC motor, all potted. Can't see a darn thing, unfortunately. Big old cap sticking out there. That's a real nice Omron switch. Even got a bellows. Buna N. nitrile rubber bellows to keep the dust out. Of course, there'd be on the circuit board here, there would be a potentiometer, a wiper that's attached to this. And then because this is brushless, this isn't actually swapping the leads. This would actually be telling the computer that we want to go in reverse. We can see there's all kinds of stuff here. The question in my mind at one point was, why does the power run through the switch if the computer is doing everything? Because if this blows up, if the MOSFETs blow up, generally they go closed. So the pixies can get from the battery to the motor without, and we see that actually, we do see that in tools. When the MOSFETs blow out, the tool runs all the time. I'm sure, yeah, there was a Milwaukee that did that, and we tried to fix it and fixed it for a while, but then it blew up again. That is why the switch, it's critical that the power goes through the switch so that there's something physically disconnecting it. We have a beauty brushless DC motor, and we can tell, here's a hint, this is actually a 3-phase AC motor, but it's computer controlled. So instead of having 3-phase sinusoidal in, the computer is actually doing it for you, switching the poles back and forth in order to get this thing to turn. And in the rotor itself, this is cute, it's permanent neodymium magnets. There you have in the rotor the magnets, no balancing marks on the laminated cores here. What we have is 2 sections of brass, so that those are what gets balanced. Tiny little bearing. I mean, this thing is just spinning a thing like crazy. Pinion looks to be hardened. Doesn't look like powder metal gear. Powder metal, tongue-tangulated. Let me get the microscope out and we'll see. Alright, here we go. Plainly see. That has been turned on a lathe. Yeah, there are the file marks. Barely made a mark on there. So nice and hard. Shaft is soft. I wonder what those little radial lines are. Maybe from, I don't know, the piece of gear holding it to cut the gear teeth. Let's have a look at the gear teeth. Unless I'm missing something, this must have been machined and then hardened after the fact. It looks real sparkly here close up. It's like it's, yeah, that's just the as hardened finish, I think. For comparison, let's look at one of these powder metal gears out of the Sun gear. You see the surface finish there? We can tell it's powder metal because it hasn't been turned at all. And on the gear face itself, we don't have those axial lines. Just get more like the surface of the moon. Now this is cute. I'm not entirely sure how exactly this works, but under the microscope we can see that to the naked eye what looks like a beautifully worn edge due to a ball bearing running on it is actually completely gnarled up. So that's what you get with the powdered metal. Just about choked on that one. Powdered metal gear. She's pretty crusty, wah. So here's the field windings. Big, huge electromagnets. Each one of these big, huge electromagnet. This size, very heavy gauge copper wire. And we can see lots of signaling going back to the mothership here. What's going on is this is a lock. This rotor is locked in phase with the magnetic fields here. So as we switch polarity, as we bring it around, this is locked. There's no slip to develop torque. It's just locked in place here. So we need to know exactly the position of this rotor in order to time the firing of each one of these electromagnets to get this thing spinning a thing and at the proper rate. And we can see on the front of this as well. Focus, you fuck. Jesus H. There we go. No, that's just a shielded bearing on the front. So they must not be worried about dust ingress on that end. Okay, here's the gearbox, and yeah, mark of the beast, plastic gearbox. Of course, this glass fiber reinforced. It's interesting, it's 33% reinforced. It is as strong, nominally as strong as an aluminum casting. However, temperature-wise, it gets softer with heat. And also, aluminum doesn't get attacked by greases, oils, that sort of stuff. Plastic does. Oh, not real impressed with the plastic gearbox. Here we got, oh my dear Lord, a whole bevy of sun gears. Yeah, well, she's fucked forever now. These are all powder metal parts. Every single one of them. Housing, oh my goodness. Look at that thing. And here's the gear selector here. So it would lock or unlock. Yeah, lock or unlock this ring. And the gear selector itself isn't metal, just this little plastic tab here. Not real impressed with that gearbox. Now this part's interesting. This is the clutch mechanism, what allows it to lock for the keyless chuck. So there needs to be a locking mechanism, because otherwise when you tried to tighten this chuck, it was just spin the whole thing, right? So this is the locking mechanism here. What happens is on these flats, these rollers need to be kept right straight ahead, or if you back turn it, it locks up. So here's some pawls. This is the input that goes back into the gearbox. That keeps those rollers in place so that we're able to turn it free. I'm making a liar out of myself. So that we're able to turn it free through here. But it's not working. But when you try and back turn it, it's like a one-way torque clutch. When you try and back turn it, it locks up. And for some reason, now I'm trying to turn it regular and it locks up. Okay, there we go. I just had this in the wrong way, and it's actually marked. You can see these little markings here. Where are they? Right there. They have to go. They have to index right in here. And then the housing is pure aluminum, just an aluminum die cast aluminum section, beautifully made. And here we have the hammering mechanism, which is nice because it's not plastic, it's actually powdered metal, and there are the tabs to hammer. Now, of course, I didn't take the chuck off before I got rid of the lock, so now I kind of hope to get this off. Tap it, tap, tap. Let me try that a little bit more. If it comes off, great. If it doesn't, we'll figure something else out. Well, as you heard, she come apart, and it appears as though we have most of the components. Ah, shit, fuck. Rookie mistake there. So by hammering on it until she give, yeah, wrecked him, damn near killed him. It's retained by a G's-less clip, and I broke the housing there. Might be able to get it back together, but it'll never be the same, really. That's not to say there's nothing JB Weld can't fix, am I right? Yeah, the patient's flatlining, doctor. Riddle me this. What? So this goes in like this. There's a bearing. So that's got to be... Is that the hammer or is that the clutch for the screwing? Two different things going on. And then what are those preloads for this ring? And then there's three little plungers here. I don't even know what. Yeah. Well, let's leave that in there. I might be licked on this one, boys. I might need to call in a friend. If you got the assembly instructions, yeah, much obliged. We can probably extrapolate which mechanism does what with some simple arithmetic on account of, if we look here, 5,500 ripums in low gear, and it'll hammer at 8250. What's 55 into 825? 55 into... Division's hard. Long division's hard. 15. So, if we have something that has a multiple of 15 bumps, then we'll figure out what's the hammer and what's the clutch for the screwing. Move this out. Oh. Move that out of the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Divisible by 15, 9. So this has got to be the clutch mechanism for the screwing. And this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15. There's the cock for dolly. This is the hammer mechanism. So as we can see, that preload spring, nothing special on there. And that is what is giving you the impact, the impetus to break rock. Not very much at all. Just a wee little tooth pattern. That's what's giving you your hammer mechanism. And that is why a hammer drill is nothing compared to a rotary hammer or an SDS chucked rotary hammer. Now, I've been using this drill for a few months now. I like it. It's got enough torque to hurt your wrist if you're not careful. A lot of the newer drills I found just didn't have the jam. This one's got it where it counts, right in the torque. However, having said that, you know, plastic gear case, powder metal gears, that's just what you get. Yeah, there's no way around it. You're not gonna, the chances are maybe with a Hilti, something like that, but then you're paying $1,000 for a drill, $800 for a drill, you know. For a home gamer, you go to the homeless death spot and you pick this up. Hey, this is a good drill. If only I could figure out how to get back together. We're gonna fire up the parts cannon, see if we can't better get it back together. It's not a foregone conclusion that this will ever chooch again, partner. But we'll leave her on the healing bench for now. Go and have a couple beers and think about what we've done. Thanks for watching. Keep your dick on the ice. On the ice. Keep your stick on the ice.